Senator McPhedran.
Thank you very much, Your Honour. Senator Housakos, I perceive you as perpetually young. So I think that the reference to your maturity is perhaps not the most relevant to this discussion. Let me go back because I think part of my question was not answered. Can you please help me understand how, after 15 bills have been introduced in the Senate for amending the Canada Elections Act, and not once was your argument used by Conservatives or any other senator saying that those amendments should not have been brought in this place? What is so different for you about the expansion of voting rights bill here? What makes it so different from those other 15 bills that, and during your time, you never objected to one of them?
Senator Housakos.
I'll ask a question in the process here. Are you implying we had 15 bills that dealt specifically with the age of the act over the 17 years I've been here? Because I remember
Elections Act.
Exactly. So just to clarify, there was a lot of technical bills at the time that we were dealing with that had nothing to do with actually something as significant as determining the age minimum of the electorate. This is a significant decision. So there were a bunch of technical bills in question to such a degree where most of them I really don't remember. There was one in particular I do remember voting for. And again, I do attribute that probably to the fact that I didn't think it went far enough that it implicated and had an effect on the electoral process. There's a lot of bills we deal here that are technical in nature. We all have seen those bills. And I would venture to say that if I go through those 15 bills in question, I would bet the vast majority of them were technical in nature. Again, if there are instances, and I'm not always perfect. I mean, as close as you get in this place, but I'm not. So if there are bills, and there are inconsistencies in my voting pattern. I mean, there's a number of senators here through the years have voted for a number of bills. I'll be happy to remind you about them after the fact. Those votes don't always look that great. But, and hindsight is always 20/20. But in this particular instance, I genuinely believe my argument is rooted in common sense.
Senator McPhedran.
Thank you very much. Again, a bit of a puzzle that I'm hoping you can help me with. Of course, you will be familiar with the Scottish referendum and very familiar with the decision in the United Kingdom for all 4 countries in the United Kingdom for the next federal election to extend voting rights to 16 and 17-year-olds. I need to ask, though, in relation to the Right Honourable Damien Green in the UK, who noted, a UK Conservative, that the idea of giving 16-year-olds the vote has been to reject it on the ground that they're not mature enough. They don't pay taxes, and therefore they don't feel the consequences. Basically, some of the arguments that you've been making here today. But he goes on to say, we were confident of taking our arguments to a new generation, meaning why the Conservative Party switched its position. We were confident of taking our arguments to a new generation. We could introduce them not only to the good habit of voting in elections, and you'll like this, but to the even better habit of voting Conservative. That's the quote of the Right Honourable Green. And another Conservative voice, Ruth Davidson, the former leader of the Scottish Conservatives, said, and she changed her position as well, and she said, having watched and debated in front of 16 and 17-year-olds throughout the referendum, my position has changed. We deem 16-year-olds adult enough to join the army, to have sex, get married, leave home, work full-time. The evidence of the referendum suggests that clearly they are old enough to vote too. And that's an end of the quote. So my question is, as an esteemed Conservative senator, how is it that you and colleagues that are going to speak against this bill are not prepared to even consider the possibility, in face of the fact that your fellow Conservatives in the UK have so eloquently and logically changed their position?
Senator Housakos.
Look, I don't want to conflate, the British experience, the UK experience, the Irish experience, and any other experience, the Canadian experience. I'm not that well versed in terms of the process of how they came to their conclusions. I don't know, for example, if the House of Lords participated in amending the Electoral Act over there, for example, that will impact the House of Commons. I don't know. And if they did, it's for them to justify. All I do know, and I said that clearly in my speech, in this country, when we give a driver's license to a 16-year-old, we put them on probation. They can't get a legitimate license in this country until they're 18, up until the age of 20. They don't serve in a jury. They serve with certain parameters when they join the cadets in the military. You don't try young people as adults in the court of law in this country. So all of these are elements in the debate, if you want to just start considering that we can open up and look at what level of we consider to be adult and mature enough to do various things. It's an opinion, obviously, and obviously opinions are very, very flexible in scope. But in my perspective, if you look at the number of 15 and 16-year-olds that pay taxes, 15 and 16-year-olds that take full responsibility, and you try them in an adult court of law, we consider in the elements of law, military service, you name it, we don't consider them adult enough to participate in the scope of those activities. But yet we think they should be participating in the scope of voting, which I think should be reserved to people that are shareholders of the company they're participating in the annual shareholders meeting in. Now, for me, it's not a partisan issue, Senator, and you know that. The Conservative Party in the UK can have the opinion it wants. I know some argued many, many years ago here in Canada the Conservatives don't want to lower the voting age because young people don't vote Conservative, and the Conservative base is people 55 and above. Well, we've seen in the last election campaign that's not quite the case. And my opinion hasn't changed just because it's politically more expedient for the Conservative Party today to have 17-year-olds vote, because between 18 and 25-year-olds we cleaned house last election. For me, that's an irrelevant argument because I'm trying to be independent and open-minded in looking at your legislation.
Senator Tanis.
Take a question. Senator Housakos. We're talking a lot about the UK experience, and you mentioned that that you didn't know too much about it. And I'm wondering if you would agree that this might help your argument to know that the UK move to 16 was the result of an election promise by the government. It will be initiated by the government, hasn't yet, but they are fixing and ready to put a bill forward, not by an independent crossbencher in the House of Lords. It will be generated after the public has spoken. Referendums are also a way in which the public speaks. We don't speak for the public. Does that help your argument, do you think, sir?
Senator Housakos.
It does, and thank you for all that, because I will look into it, and I'm sure over a cup of coffee, Senator McPhedran and I will look at the details of how they're going about their business, but that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, my initial reaction would have been shock if this is an initiative that the House of Lords, for example, was carrying on, or even the House of Commons would do very lightly. This is very important elements that influence the democratic process.